Assalamualaikum and hi everyone. I am Puan Siti Rohana Bentiman, your biology teacher. Today, we're going to learn ecosystem and the content standard for this learning field is about community and ecosystem. At the end of this lesson, you will be able to describe energy flow in the food chain. Okay students, let's learn about energy flow in the food chain. Organisms in an ecosystem interact with each other in the form of a feeding relationship which can be shown in the food chain. So, a food chain is the sequence of energy transfer from one trophic level to another trophic level, beginning with the producers. In the food chain, it starts with the producer and ends with either a secondary consumer or a tertiary consumer. So you can see from this diagram, okay, organisms feed on organisms from the previous trophic level. So energy will be transferred from the consumed organisms to the feeding organisms. And energy transferred between trophic levels when an organism eats other organisms from which it gains its energy. And this energy then will be transferred to the organism after it has digested and assimilated the food to form new substances in the body, for example, glucose. So now students, let's explore virtual reality about food chain.
All organisms depend on each other for their food. The model representing the feeding relationship among organisms of an ecosystem is called a food chain. Each step in a food chain is called a trophic level. This is a terrestrial ecosystem. Let's observe the feeding relationship among organisms of a food chain in this ecosystem. Click on the highlighted grass to view its level in the food chain. Correct, grass is the producer in the terrestrial ecosystem. Click on the highlighted grasshopper to view its level in the food chain. Correct, the grasshopper is the primary consumer in the terrestrial ecosystem, as it feeds on the producer, the grass. Click on the highlighted frog to view its level in the food chain. Correct, the frog is the secondary consumer in the terrestrial ecosystem, as it feeds on the primary consumer, the grasshopper. Click on the highlighted snake to view its level in the food chain. Correct, the snake is the tertiary consumer in the terrestrial ecosystem, as it feeds on the secondary consumer, the frog. Click on the highlighted hawk to view its level in the food chain. Right, the hawk is the quaternary consumer in the terrestrial ecosystem, as it feeds on the tertiary consumer, the snake. You have completed this activity. Select OK to return to the menu and continue to the next activity.
So now, let's assess your knowledge about food chain by using virtual reality.
Follow the instructions to perform the assessment and earn points. You can try multiple times, but points are only awarded if you answer correctly on the first try. Identify who eats what and construct a food chain of a terrestrial ecosystem from the given organisms. Select and place the organisms in their appropriate levels in the food chain using your controller. Right. 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 Select the correct label for each trophic level of the food chain from the content panel and place it in the appropriate food chain using your controller. Right. Correct. Right. Right. Correct. You have completed the assessment. Here is your score. You scored well, and you have completed the module. Select OK to return to the menu where you can exit.
Okay, students, now look at food web. In natural conditions, most of the animals will feed on more than one type of organisms. For example, birds eat caterpillars as well as grasshoppers and paddies. Thus, birds form a few food chains and occupy different trophic levels. So a bird can be placed at the second trophic level as a primary consumer by feeding on paddy. However, the same bird can also exist at the third trophic level as a secondary consumer when feeding on grasshopper. Okay, so these are the circumstances that results in several food chains to be interconnected to form a food web. So it shows the feeding relationship in a community and consists of several food chains. So you can see from this diagram as shown in your textbook. So organisms in all food chains rely on each other in feeding aspects. It starts with photosynthetic producers, which convert light energy from the sun into chemical energy in the form of food stored in organs. Okay, normally the food stored in the roots, fruits, stems, or leaves. So now, let's explore virtual reality about food web.
Let's establish the feeding relationships between the organisms from different food chains, starting with grass as a producer. From the surroundings, select a consumer that feeds on grass and place it in the highlighted area. Right. Select one more primary consumer from the surroundings and place it in the highlighted area. Right. Select one more primary consumer from the surroundings and place it in the highlighted area. Right. From the surroundings, select a consumer that feeds on the grasshopper and place it in the highlighted area. Correct. From the surrounding, select a consumer that feeds on both the squirrel and the frog and place it in the highlighted area. Correct. From the surroundings, select a consumer that feeds on the snake, squirrel, and rabbit and place it in the highlighted area. Correct. Well done! You have correctly established the feeding relationships between the organisms from different food chains. As you can see, organisms from one food chain can also feed on the organisms from other food chains. This network of various food chains in which each organism either feeds on or is fed upon by more than one organism is called a food web. You have completed this activity. Select OK to return to the menu and continue to the next activity.
Okay, students, now Let's assess your knowledge about food web by using virtual reality.
Follow the instructions to perform the assessment and earn points. You can try multiple times, but points are only awarded if you answer correctly on the first try. Complete the food web by selecting an animal from the surroundings and placing it in the appropriate location. Correct. Right. Right. Correct. 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 You have completed the assessment. Here is your score. You scored well, and you have completed the module. Select OK to return to the menu where you can exit.
Hopefully, you can understand the concept of food chain and food web and able to construct the food chain and food web. That's all. Thank you.